In a world full of deception, learning to avoid manipulation is crucial. These 10 Stoic-inspired tips will help you harness the power of reason, integrity, and self-awareness to stand firm and fight back. Understand the basics of logical fallacies. Embarking on the journey to understand logical fallacies is crucial for anyone wishing to defend themselves against manipulation. Logical fallacies are common errors in reasoning that can lead to faulty conclusions, often wielded as tools by those who wish to sway opinion or control narratives. Understanding these fallacies not only sharpens your analytical skills, but also equips you with the ability to maintain clarity and composure during discussions, especially when faced with manipulative tactics. To illustrate the significance of recognizing these fallacies, consider the ad hominem fallacy. This fallacy occurs when someone attacks the character of the person making an argument rather than addressing the argument itself. It's a tactic frequently observed in political debates, where candidates often focus more on discrediting their opponents than engaging meaningfully with the issues at hand. For example, during an election cycle, a candidate might say, "How can we trust my opponent's plan for education when they have been divorced 3 times?" This tactic shifts the focus from educational policy to personal character, undermining rational discourse. By familiarizing yourself with various types of logical fallacies, such as strawman arguments, false dilemmas, and slippery slope arguments, you gain a toolkit for dissecting conversations that seek to manipulate through flawed reasoning. For instance, during a public council meeting where a proposal for community funding is debated, you might encounter a member who employs the slippery slope fallacy by claiming that if the council approves funding for one project, it will inevitably lead to funding for every proposed project in the future, creating chaos. Recognizing this fallacy allows you to maintain focus on the merits of the current proposal rather than getting sidetracked by hypothetical consequences. Moreover, understanding logical fallacies empowers you to challenge arguments effectively. If a council member presents a solution based on fear-mongering, such as claiming that failure to pass a measure will result in catastrophic outcomes for the community, you can identify this as a form of manipulation that lacks rational basis. By asking for concrete evidence and logical reasoning to support their claims, you assert the importance of truth and reason, aligning with Stoic principles that emphasize rational thought. In your discussions, practice articulating your understanding of logical fallacies by citing examples from current events, literature, or even personal experiences. This not only enhances your critical thinking skills, but also encourages others to engage with you on a more rational level. By fostering an environment where logical reasoning is valued, you contribute to a healthier dialogue that prioritizes substance over sensationalism. Cultivate a Stoic mindset, rationality over emotion. To effectively navigate the complexities of manipulation, cultivating a Stoic mindset is essential. This approach emphasizes the importance of prioritizing rational thought over emotional reactions, particularly in high-stakes situations where manipulation is prevalent. In today's society, various entities, politicians, advertisers, and interest groups often employ tactics designed to provoke fear, anger, or anxiety in order to gain compliance or support. Understanding this manipulation allows you to navigate interactions with greater awareness. For instance, consider how political leaders might use fear-based narratives during elections, painting a dire picture of the consequences of electing their opponents. They might say, "If you vote for my opponent, crime will increase, and your community will become unsafe." Such tactics aim to manipulate public sentiment, urging voters to act out of fear rather than rational consideration of the candidate's policies and qualifications. By recognizing these emotional appeals, you empower yourself to respond with logic rather than letting fear dictate your choices. Practicing Stoic techniques like mindfulness, cognitive reframing, and emotional detachment can further enhance your ability to remain rational in the face of manipulation. Mindfulness, for example, encourages you to be present and aware of your thoughts and feelings without becoming overwhelmed by them. When facing emotionally charged situations, take a moment to breathe deeply and ground yourself. Acknowledge your emotions, but remind yourself that they do not have to control your actions or decisions. Cognitive reframing involves looking at a situation from a different perspective, allowing you to see it more clearly and rationally. If you feel overwhelmed by negative news or the rhetoric of fear during a council meeting, you might reframe the situation by asking yourself, what evidence supports these claims? What are the alternative viewpoints? This mental clarity enables you to engage with information more objectively, helping you resist manipulation by emotional appeals. In council discussions, when faced with passionate pleas filled with emotional rhetoric, it's essential to practice active listening while maintaining a rational perspective. Instead of reacting defensively or dismissively, ask probing questions that invite deeper exploration of the issues. For example, if a colleague argues that a specific policy will save lives based on anecdotal evidence, respond with, "Can we review the data that supports this claim? Are there studies that confirm this outcome?" This approach not only fosters a culture of critical thinking, but also disarms attempts at emotional manipulation. By fostering this rational mindset, you not only protect yourself from being manipulated, but also promote a more thoughtful and constructive dialogue in your community. When others witness your calm demeanor and rational approach, they may feel encouraged to follow suit, creating an environment where logic prevails over emotion, and constructive discussions can thrive. Question the source. Scrutinizing information. In a world saturated with information, the ability to scrutinize the sources of that information becomes increasingly essential for defending against manipulation. Just as the Stoics valued truth, integrity, and the pursuit of knowledge, you should adopt a critical lens when evaluating the claims presented to you. This is particularly relevant when navigating complex issues such as public health, political policies, or community initiatives, where misinformation can spread rapidly and influence public behavior. For instance, during a public health crisis, various factions may promote conflicting narratives, each claiming to have the correct information. Some may advocate for strict health measures, while others push for minimal restrictions, often invoking sensationalism to sway public opinion. In such scenarios, the ability to discern credible sources from unreliable ones is crucial. Begin by asking yourself, who is presenting this information? What expertise do they have in the subject matter? Are they affiliated with reputable organizations, and what motivations might they have? To illustrate this point, consider a council meeting discussing a controversial public health initiative. If a council member cites a study to support their position, take the time to look into the study's author and funding sources. Understanding the background of the information helps you discern its reliability and objectivity. If you discover that the study was funded by an organization with a vested interest in the outcome, you might question the objectivity of the findings and urge your colleagues to consider alternative perspectives. This practice of questioning sources not only enhances your understanding of the topic, but also empowers you to challenge falsehoods effectively. If a council member promotes a decision based on questionable data or hearsay, you can ask, what is the source of this information, and what methodology was used in the study? How do we know it is reliable? This inquiry not only demonstrates your critical thinking, but also encourages transparency and accountability among your peers. Moreover, fostering a culture of source scrutiny can lead to more informed decision-making within your community. Encourage others to adopt similar practices by sharing articles, studies, or resources that emphasize the importance of critical evaluation. When discussing proposed policies, remind your colleagues that sound decisions are grounded in credible information and urge them to conduct their research before forming conclusions. By advocating for evidence-based discussions, you align with Stoic principles that prioritize reason and truth. This commitment to rational inquiry disarms those who attempt to manipulate through misinformation, fostering a healthier dialogue where integrity and transparency prevail. Use the Socratic method. Encourage critical thinking. One of the most effective tools you can employ in dismantling manipulation is the Socratic method, which involves asking probing questions to stimulate critical thinking and illuminate underlying assumptions. This technique can be particularly useful in environments where emotional appeals or fallacious reasoning dominate discussions, such as public councils or community forums. By encouraging a culture of inquiry, you can foster an environment where manipulation becomes more difficult. For example, suppose a council member proposes a policy based solely on emotional anecdotes without substantial evidence. In that case, using the Socratic method allows you to steer the conversation toward logical reasoning and evidence-based discussions. Start by asking questions that invite exploration of the underlying assumptions. You might begin with, what specific problem are we trying to solve with this policy? How do we know this approach will address that problem effectively? By prompting others to reflect on their reasoning, you create a space for critical dialogue. Consider a scenario where a council is debating the implementation of a new public safety initiative. If one member argues that implementing more surveillance cameras will reduce crime based solely on personal experience, you can interject with questions like, are there studies that support this claim? What data do we have on crime rates in areas with similar initiatives? By guiding the conversation toward evidence-based reasoning, you encourage a more thoughtful examination of the proposal. Additionally, employing the Socratic method can help dismantle emotional appeals by redirecting focus to facts and logic. If someone makes a statement designed to evoke fear or anger, such as claiming that a particular policy will lead to disaster, ask questions that challenge the basis of that claim. For example, what evidence supports this outcome? Have we considered alternative scenarios? This approach encourages a more rational examination of the claims being made, making it harder for emotional manipulation to take root. Moreover, employing this method not only clarifies your understanding, but also empowers your peers to engage in more thoughtful discussions. By fostering an environment of inquiry, you promote a culture where everyone feels comfortable asking questions and challenging assumptions. This collaborative approach encourages open dialogue and collective problem-solving, which is especially vital in council settings where diverse perspectives are at play. Ultimately, the Socratic method aligns with Stoic principles by encouraging rationality and clarity in communication. By embracing this technique, you can cultivate a more engaged and informed community where logical reasoning prevails over manipulation. Foster open dialogue, creating safe spaces for discussion. In order to dismantle manipulation, fostering open dialogue is essential. Creating safe spaces where individuals feel comfortable expressing their thoughts, opinions, and concerns is critical for promoting healthy discourse. In council meetings or community discussions, open dialogue encourages diverse viewpoints, allowing for a more comprehensive understanding of complex issues. This practice aligns closely with Stoic values, which emphasize reason, integrity, and the pursuit of truth. For instance, in a community council meeting addressing a contentious issue, such as the allocation of funding for public services, encouraging open dialogue allows all members to voice their perspectives without fear of judgment. To establish such an environment, consider implementing ground rules for discussions, emphasizing respect, active listening, and the value of constructive criticism. This framework not only helps prevent manipulation, but also fosters collaboration and understanding among council members. When a member expresses a controversial opinion, instead of dismissing it outright, invite further exploration. You might say, "That's an interesting perspective. Can you elaborate on the reasoning behind your stance?" This invitation to elaborate encourages deeper discussion and allows everyone to critically evaluate the merits of the argument, reducing the likelihood of emotional manipulation taking hold. Moreover, encouraging diverse viewpoints helps to challenge dominant narratives that may be based on fear or misinformation. In a council meeting, if one member presents a proposal that lacks evidence, you can facilitate open dialogue by asking others for their thoughts. By creating an environment where everyone's voice is valued, you foster a culture of inquiry and reflection, enabling members to critically evaluate the proposal and its implications. In addition, providing opportunities for anonymous feedback or suggestions can further enhance open dialogue. This allows individuals who may feel intimidated to express their views without fear of repercussions. By actively soliciting input from all members, you create a sense of ownership and participation within the council, empowering individuals to contribute to the decision-making process. Ultimately, fostering open dialogue aligns with Stoic principles by promoting truth, understanding, and rationality in discussions. By creating safe spaces for open communication, you empower individuals to express their thoughts freely and constructively, reducing the likelihood of manipulation through misinformation or emotional appeals. Practice active listening, a key to understanding. Active listening is an invaluable skill that can significantly reduce the potential for manipulation during discussions. This technique involves fully engaging with the speaker, demonstrating empathy, and ensuring that their message is understood before responding. In an age where sound bites and emotional appeals often dominate conversations, practicing active listening allows you to cut through the noise and grasp the nuances of a discussion, aligning with Stoic principles of understanding and rationality. During council meetings, for example, when a member presents a passionate argument about a proposed policy change, your first step should be to actively listen. This means maintaining eye contact, nodding in acknowledgement, and resisting the urge to formulate your response while the other person is speaking. Instead, focus on understanding their perspective. After they finish, paraphrase their points to demonstrate that you've grasped their message, such as, "So you're saying that you believe this policy will improve community safety by..." Active listening not only fosters empathy, but also encourages a more thoughtful dialogue. By genuinely engaging with others, you create an atmosphere where individuals feel valued and understood. This, in turn, reduces the likelihood of manipulation, since people are less likely to resort to emotional tactics when they feel heard and acknowledged. Consider a situation where two council members disagree on an important issue, such as resource allocation. Instead of allowing tensions to escalate, practice active listening by inviting both parties to share their viewpoints without interruption. This encourages a respectful exchange of ideas and may even lead to a collaborative solution that considers the concerns of both sides. Moreover, active listening empowers you to identify manipulative tactics that may arise during discussions. If someone attempts to sway the conversation through emotional appeals, such as invoking fear or guilt, actively listening allows you to recognize the underlying message. You can then respond thoughtfully, redirecting the conversation to focus on logical reasoning and evidence rather than emotions. By cultivating a habit of active listening, you not only enhance your understanding of the issues at hand, but also foster an environment of mutual respect and collaboration within your community. This alignment with Stoic values reinforces the importance of reason and understanding, making it more challenging for manipulation to take hold. Promote critical thinking, encouraging independent thought. Promoting critical thinking is vital in the fight against manipulation, as it encourages individuals to analyze information independently rather than passively accepting it. By fostering an environment that values inquiry and skepticism, you empower others to challenge narratives and engage in thoughtful discussions. This aligns with Stoic principles that emphasize the importance of rationality and the pursuit of truth. To cultivate critical thinking, consider introducing discussion prompts or activities that require council members to analyze various perspectives on a given issue. For example, when discussing a proposed policy, challenge members to consider both the pros and cons, encouraging them to weigh evidence before forming conclusions. You might ask, what are the potential benefits of this policy? What are the possible drawbacks? How do we know these claims are valid? Additionally, providing resources such as articles, studies, or books that promote critical thinking skills can further enhance this environment. Encourage council members to explore different viewpoints and engage with materials that emphasize logic and reasoning. For instance, sharing an article about cognitive biases can help members understand how these biases can cloud judgment and lead to flawed reasoning. Furthermore, consider organizing workshops or training sessions focused on critical thinking skills. Invite guest speakers or experts who can provide insights into the importance of logic and reasoning in decision-making. This investment in education reinforces the value of independent thought and rational discourse, helping members develop the skills necessary to navigate complex issues effectively. Promoting critical thinking also involves modeling this behavior yourself. When engaging in discussions, demonstrate how to ask probing questions, analyze evidence, and challenge assumptions respectfully. By setting an example, you encourage others to adopt similar practices, creating a culture where critical thinking is valued and manipulation becomes more difficult. Ultimately, fostering critical thinking aligns with Stoic values that prioritize reason and rationality. By empowering individuals to engage thoughtfully with information, you contribute to a more informed community capable of resisting manipulation and making decisions grounded in logic and evidence. Recognize the role of emotion in decision-making. While Stoicism emphasizes the importance of rationality, it is essential to acknowledge that emotions play a significant role in human decision-making. Recognizing and understanding the influence of emotions can enhance your ability to navigate discussions and resist manipulation. By developing emotional awareness, you can better distinguish between emotional appeals and logical reasoning, aligning with Stoic principles of self-awareness and rationality. For instance, consider a council meeting where a member passionately argues for a policy change, invoking strong emotional language to rally support. They might say, "If we don't pass this measure, our children's future will be at risk." While their concerns may be valid, it is crucial to identify when emotions are being used to sway opinions rather than promote rational discourse. To effectively navigate these situations, practice emotional awareness by acknowledging your feelings and those of others. When confronted with emotionally charged rhetoric, take a moment to pause and assess your emotional state. Ask yourself, how does this statement make me feel? Am I reacting out of fear, anger, or frustration? This reflection allows you to engage more thoughtfully with the discussion, avoiding impulsive reactions that may lead to further emotional escalation. Additionally, when addressing emotionally charged topics, encourage others to articulate their feelings alongside their arguments. For example, you might say, "I understand this issue evokes strong feelings. Can you share how this policy impacts you personally and why it matters to you?" By inviting individuals to express their emotions, you create space for empathy while maintaining focus on the logical aspects of the discussion. Recognizing the role of emotion also empowers you to identify manipulative tactics that rely on emotional appeals. If a council member attempts to provoke fear or guilt to gain support, you can respond with questions that redirect the conversation toward rational discourse. For instance, you might ask, "What evidence supports this claim? Are there alternative viewpoints we should consider?" This approach reinforces the importance of logic while acknowledging the emotional context of the discussion. Ultimately, embracing emotional awareness enhances your ability to navigate complex discussions while remaining grounded in Stoic principles. By recognizing the interplay between emotion and reason, you create a more balanced dialogue where manipulation becomes less effective. Encourage accountability, fostering responsibility in discussions. Encouraging accountability is crucial in dismantling manipulation, as it promotes responsibility and transparency in discussions. By fostering a culture where individuals are held accountable for their statements and actions, you reduce the likelihood of manipulation and create an environment that values integrity and truth. This practice aligns with Stoic principles that emphasize the importance of honesty and moral responsibility. In council meetings, consider implementing mechanisms for accountability, such as establishing clear guidelines for discussions and decision-making processes. For instance, encourage members to provide evidence or data to support their claims, reinforcing the expectation that assertions must be grounded in logic and reality. By holding individuals accountable for their statements, you create an atmosphere where misinformation is less likely to thrive. Moreover, actively encourage individuals to take ownership of their contributions. If a member makes a sweeping claim without evidence, gently remind them of the importance of substantiating their arguments. You might say, "That's an interesting point. Can you provide data or examples to support that statement?" This approach fosters a sense of responsibility and encourages others to think critically about the information they present. Additionally, consider implementing a follow-up process for decisions made during council meetings. After a decision is reached, encourage members to reflect on the outcomes and evaluate whether the anticipated results align with the actual impact. This practice not only promotes accountability, but also reinforces the importance of evidence-based decision-making. Encouraging accountability also extends to acknowledging mistakes and learning from them. When errors occur, whether in decision-making or communication, create a safe space for individuals to admit their mistakes without fear of retribution. This culture of openness fosters growth and improvement, reinforcing the idea that accountability is essential for a healthy discourse. Ultimately, promoting accountability aligns with Stoic values that emphasize integrity and self-awareness. By encouraging individuals to take responsibility for their words and actions, you create a community where manipulation becomes less effective and constructive dialogue flourishes. Be a model of integrity, leading by example. As a leader in your community, embodying the principles of integrity is essential in the fight against manipulation. By modeling ethical behavior and demonstrating a commitment to truth and reason, you inspire others to adopt similar practices. This alignment with Stoic principles reinforces the importance of moral character and the pursuit of virtue in all aspects of life. To be a model of integrity, consistently uphold your values in both words and actions. In council meetings, demonstrate honesty and transparency in your communications. For instance, if you make a mistake or realize you were misinformed, admit it openly and strive to correct the record. This commitment to truth fosters trust and respect among council members, encouraging them to engage with you authentically. Additionally, strive to create an environment where ethical behavior is celebrated and recognized. When individuals demonstrate integrity in their discussions or decision-making, acknowledge their contributions publicly. By celebrating ethical behavior, you reinforce the idea that integrity is a valued trait within your community. Moreover, encourage ethical reflection within your council. For instance, when discussing important issues, prompt members to consider the ethical implications of their proposals. You might ask, how does this decision align with our values as a community? What impact will it have on our residents? This practice fosters a culture of ethical consideration and reinforces the importance of integrity in decision-making. Furthermore, be transparent about your decision-making processes and encourage open dialogue about the values that guide your choices. By inviting members to engage in discussions about ethical considerations, you empower them to think critically about their actions and the potential consequences. Ultimately, by being a model of integrity, you create a community where manipulation becomes increasingly difficult to sustain. Your commitment to truth and ethical behavior inspires others to adopt similar values, fostering a culture that prioritizes reason, understanding, and moral character. By embracing these Stoic principles, you equip yourself with the tools to recognize and resist manipulation in modern life. From cultivating self-awareness and fostering open dialogue to embodying integrity and encouraging accountability, each tip empowers you to navigate challenging situations with clarity and confidence. Ultimately, the fight against manipulation begins within. By mastering your own thoughts, actions, and responses, you can create a more honest and authentic community around you.